Hey everybody, this is Seth from Misfit Athletics. I'm here with Alexis Johnson, 31st place at the 2016 Crossfit Games. We're talking about recapping her season and what we're going to do to improve her going into next year. Overall, how did your experience go with your first trip to the games?
It was a big learning experience. I can see why they say that it pays off to go back and not be a rookie. I learned a lot, and I had a lot of fun the whole time. But there are places that I know, or things that I would do to approach it differently next year. And things that I would do differently all year.
And so overall, were your goals met for the 2016 season? Like, when you set your goal prior to cycle one with us last year, was your goal to finish 31st at the games? Was it higher? Was it lower? Where did you end up?
So my goal was to make the games. Of course, no, I don't think anyone wants to finish in the bottom 10 of the games. Even if they making it's great, but I don't think that's their goal when they get there. I of course wanted to finish in the top half or, somewhere close. But I don't know, you can't control what other people do. I was really happy about, how I did on most workouts. I was really, really happy with the score.
Yeah.
And I need to work on.
Well, one of our conversations we had probably early this year, maybe even before, was your first time at regionals in 2014, was it? And you came off the floor after your first or second event, and you said, what was it you said?
Whoa, they are so fast.
Yeah, and now you come off the floor for your first games trip, and what is it that you said?
Probably exactly that.
Same thing. So in 2 years, you went from kind of being almost shell-shocked from competition at regionals, your first time there. You kind of get that experience under your belt, and then fast forward, your third regional was the successful one where you make it to the games, right? And then you get on the floor at the games, and you have that almost like a deja vu experience, like, wow, I thought I was prepared, and I still feel prepared, but everybody else is equally or more prepared than me. So do you think that you can take that same sort of approach that you took from your shock at regionals a few years back to the feeling you had at the games, and then apply that so that next year and years coming, you have a similar experience when you had success at the regional level to have success at the games level?
Yeah, totally. I went to this year's games with a lot of confidence. I didn't go in thinking that, Camille or someone was a lot better than me. But it turns out they didn't do so well either.
Right.
I was pretty confident that I could keep up and do well on a lot of workouts. So it was almost a surprise to me by how well people did. I just learned what people are good at, where my weaknesses lie. Next year I'll be a lot better at running.
Yeah.
It was a surprise to me at what these girls were good at. When I would watch the later heats go, I was just always surprised by the scores, like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess it wasn't the same kind of feeling. I had confidence and I was really surprised. So.
And one of the things that kind of hurts you on that level that we have to do a lot of work on, I think, in coming years is you don't have that endurance background. So when they make you run 6 out of 14 or 15 events and they have the ability to just stretch the event as long as they want it to be because it's over the course of 5 days, not, 2.5 at regionals, and it's more than 2 times the events at regionals, like, they can really test things that would kind of lend to someone who had specific sport backgrounds, like a weightlifter or like an endurance athlete of some kind. You come from the gymnastics background, and while that definitely helps it helps your base, and it helps you when gymnastics come up, as you showed everybody with a win on the final event, which was really just a pegboard event. That was the whole thing. The barbell was just a nuisance, and you crushed everybody. If you had more events like that on your side, you would have done better. But because the field is so big and broad, they just beat everybody up with the endurance stuff. So you just find that those that can kind of take that lead with that background that you don't have an advantage going into it. But on the regional and open level, when it's all, for the most part, CrossFit and not testing one modality or something like that over and over again, you tend to have the advantage. So how do you go from having that advantage at the open and regional level to the games level and apply what you have in CrossFit to the games to be successful without that extensive background? How are you going to do that?
You work harder and do a lot more of what you're bad at. I've been doing a lot of thinking the last few days, and I probably can't keep up by lifting weights with the girls that are 25 pounds heavier than me, and I've got to win some workouts, so I've got to go out there and be good at running. This year was 6 events, so if I could go out there and crush the running event and crush the gymnastics event, I'm in good shape. So that's what I'll be doing every single day.
We'll be doing a lot more endurance work for sure. What's good about someone at your level, and we really can't say this about a lot of athletes, is there's no such thing as open prep anymore for you. There's nothing that they can deliver in the open that's going to keep you from even finishing in the top 5 in your region anymore. You just have reached that level of an athlete that we don't have to prepare for the open. We go into regionals prep, and the open is just like any other online qualifier that you have to do and have to set your camera up and have to take serious, but don't really have to kill because none of the points carry over. So we now have the advantage of just knowing. I mean, you finished top 10 in the world, right, in the open last year? So it's not like you can fall off the map in this year. So
with done. So,
with one and done. Right. Exactly. The other thing that really stood out, and I'm sure people noticed, and I'm sure you thought about this too, is, so we're talking about endurance work here, and that's something that is fairly easily trained, and people of all shapes and sizes can do endurance work and get fairly proficient at it. But the weightlifting portion did not go in your favor, and you were beat up, run down. You pulled a decent deadlift, but you did not clean well at all. And we all know it's not a strength for you, but you didn't even live up to your own expectations of something that was reasonable that we all expected you to be able to get through, and I'm sure you expected it for yourself. How are you going to approach your weightlifting training this year? No matter what the programming is we give you, how do you approach it, like mindset-wise, when you go to lift weights and set yourself up for competition next season?
So I learned something about myself in the last year or so, and it's that I do a lot better when I weightlift under a time crunch.
Oh, okay. With the time, yeah, okay.
What we've been tending to see in competition. So I'll probably put myself on some sort of clock when I lift weights, and that'll also probably make me focus a little bit more on each lift, knowing that I have a little bit of pressure on me.
I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I think that's a really good way to approach stuff like that. There's a difference between building capacity in heavy reps in CrossFit and building 1 rep max strength, and both basically were tested at the games. The deadlift, you have a chunk of time between pull and singles, so it's not that rushed, right? Did you feel rushed moving around the deadlift? Not too bad, until it got really heavy, obviously. But
yeah, deadlift was weird. It was on a pretty steep slope downward, so
your toes are higher than your heels.
No, it was the other way around. Your heels are higher than your toes. You had to roll the bar towards you, and the entire time during your lift, be pulling towards you. So I was super stoked to get even 5 pounds away from my PR.
Wow, so it's almost like deadlifting in Oli shoes, which you really shouldn't do.
That was even more.
Even more than Oli shoes.
Yeah, it was, and because they made it so that the bar would roll right back into that.
Forward into the log. The half log.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I guess that's why they have the logs there. That makes more sense now. Gotcha.
But that was all left. It was...
Well, that's different, right? That's testing it in a different way, I suppose, a little bit.
It was so weird.
Huh. But, so, That's the 1 rep max side of things. The capacity side of things was the squat clean pyramid or whatever they called it. And yeah, that was right out of the gate was what, 75% of your 1 rep. Your 1 rep's like 225, right? And that's on a good day is what we get for a 1 rep max squat clean out of you. So to make you do 10, well, right? I mean, we're working on it. But to get you to do 10 at 165, and then right into 180 after you've gone through 10 really quickly. I mean, you actually got through them in a decent time. Yeah, you could see your legs just didn't want it anymore. So if you're...
They were done for. They were toast.
You can see. Because you hit a good bounce out of the bottom each time, and then you would get to that sticking point, and you could see you would drive, and then you would just collapse. So it's not like you weren't trying. You could see that it was basically failure at that point, and it was really early on to get that. So adding that kind of time cap to your training, especially early on in the year as we're building through skill and percentages, will allow you or force you to work through those percentages in a faster time and hopefully build your capacity for the competition setting. So I think that's really smart to approach things that way. What did you think about the conditions of the game? So, and when I say conditions, I mean like the super early wake-up calls for all the way through the really long days. So sometimes you had a 12-hour day of competing with obviously big chunks of break in between, but not really enough time to get true recovery like you would in an ideal training scenario. Your food is kind of, I mean, we're bringing food best we can. You're eating what you can. Yeah. So why don't you explain kind of all the tough situations you went through and how you dealt with them?
Yeah. So when we train at full recovery. And, I think we should still train at full recovery because training's for that exact purpose. It's to train and get better. But the first 3 days of the games, I think I had a max of 5 hours of sleep each night. The first night we had a 3 a.m. wake up call, and we were, how early can you really go to bed for that? We tried to go to bed around 9, but get much sleep. The next day we had to swim in the morning. We didn't get out 12:30, and so we had another 5 hours. I just don't think most of us slept.
You're saying most of you guys didn't sleep well leading into Murph?
Yeah, not before Murph. We were all pretty nervous and just thinking a lot.
Do you think it was nerves, or do you think it was because now, like, the first day of competition, he's completely screwed up your sleep schedule? Not only have you traveled to a different time zone, but now he's just totally thrown a wrench in what you're used to doing, and your body's trying to deal with the stress and almost the shock from the first day of competition and then carry it through a 4-day weekend.
Yeah, that's true. I think we were our bodies were absolutely racked and shocked from, you wake up first of all, we woke up at 3:30 expecting that we might have to work out. And so we're all hyped up. We're all, thinking, okay, we might have to do a workout at 4:30 this morning.
Right.
It turns out we were working out until 11. So, just that up and down already was like an adrenaline spike and an adrenaline crash before we even started doing anything.
Right.
And then, we ran the 7K, which is not, that's a significant workout. And then
up and down hills too. It's not like it's flat ground, right? You're not just running steady pace flat ground. You're sprinting and falling and climbing, and it's more than a 7K.
It's all a ton. I rolled just about everything in my body, but I think I rolled it all equally that it ended up feeling okay. And then, you pull a 1 rep max deadlift too, which is super taxing, like much more than it looks on paper. So yeah, going into that third day, I think we were all just both exhausted but wrecked and everything. So I didn't sleep much again. Finally, the night of Murph, we got to sleep a little bit. But then thinking that whole day, it was hard to eat much. Just not front. You guys don't see that we line up 25 minutes before the event.
Right.
In the events, we oftentimes have briefings, which we have to be at 45 minutes before we go on the floor for it. Then we go on the floor for it. So, just every single thing takes an extra 2 hours. So, there was no time for me to go, to even leave the athlete area at all. So,
one of the issues that I thought of the whole week too was because we had a tough time breaking you out of that first heat each time, you would get briefed and the females would go first. So you have the smallest window of preparation out of any of the athletes for all the games. So if they briefed you and said, okay, you guys are going in 90 minutes, if you're lining up 25 before and you have to do X, Y, and Z, that means you really only have 20 minutes to warm up, whereas I know you take a good 40, 45 minutes to warm up properly before a training session. So now you're under this time crunch where you have to pick what's important. It just throws you off your rhythm that you're used to. So now you're on the fly each and every event over and over again. And with their lack of telling you, I mean, this was the year where they kept the most surprises. They literally were not telling people even what time they were going. Not even the event, but not even what time they were going. You had no way to prepare until about 20 minutes before your heat each time.
Yeah, so, that was one thing I was most upset about for myself is that, so we were at the ranch and we pulled our max deadlift and then we had lunch. So, I'm kicking myself because in the back of my head, I knew we were going to have another workout afterward, but I didn't stay warm. I sat down and ate my lunch because, that's what I really wanted to do. I had been up since 3:30 in the morning. It was noon, and I just wanted to sit down and eat my lunch. So I did, and then, after lunch, Dave Castro does the briefing, and it turns out we had about 10 minutes before we started, which meant my heat had about 8 minutes to warm up or something.
Yeah.
There's heavy wall balls on this slant where I'm not super comfortable, and GHD sit-ups with the med ball, and then a run. And I had 8 minutes. And so I had just been sitting down to eat my lunch. I was super tight. I ran a 7K, pulled a max deadlift, and sat down. I'm an idiot. And so I did about 2 or 3 wall balls and then 2 or 3 GHD sit-ups and then had to go warm up because we had to share the wall ball to warm up.
Right.
We were two. So I got 0 warm up and my squat was not warm. So that event, it was a shit show and it was super, the whole time it was just because I couldn't even get myself out of breath because I just kept getting knocked over by a wall ball.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the workout as a workout. I was just trying to complete it. I was, it was very frustrating. So there was that. And then the one with the box jumps and D-balls, I think we had the first heat of women 10 minutes maybe to warm up on those boxes.
Yep.
Hence why I blew out an Achilles.
Yeah.
That was the 2 situations where it really sucked. There were a few others that were not so ideal, but I quickly learned to adapt to that, and I stayed warm. After learning that first time, I stayed warm through the rest of it. So.
Well, see, and that just comes back to what basically the theme of this whole thing is the experience that you're getting from this. Now next year sort of what to expect, or at least what you could expect, and you can better prepare and make better game plans for how you're going to approach things if they do give you 8 minutes before you're running out there to do some mystery WOD. You'll know, okay, I have this primer in the back of my head I can do right now. That'll be good. I know I need to stretch this, or I know I need to mobilize that, and then you can start making these plans. So, this is all stuff that you never had to deal with before, so you never really gave it much thought. And then when it comes to light and you're affected by it, it's deeply planted in the back of your head. Okay, I need to make a plan for next year. And I think those experiences are what carry the athletes that finished, a good chunk ahead of you. There's a lot of returning games athletes. There's a good amount of rookies, but there's a lot of returning games athletes that know exactly what to expect when it comes to how to deal with surprises. So now you know. So. What was the most surprising thing that happened to you during the entire games? What was the one thing that sticks out that you go, wow, I would definitely approach that differently. I didn't expect that this year.
The most surprising, I couldn't climb rope.
You couldn't climb rope, could you?
Have any idea what happened? First, they told us we had to have gloves on to go out there on the floor, and that messed with me because I went to grab the rope with the gloves on and I slid right down. So I had to take and then I couldn't get the gloves off because they're so tight.
I saw you doing this for 5 minutes as I'm screaming at you from the stands.
I was so pissed. So that took about 30 seconds at least. And then I didn't adapt well on the fly to those to the ropes. My rope, I think the shoes I was wearing, because I was wearing the ones with traction for the turf, I don't think they had great traction on the rope. And, I was legless climbing great, and I was, had super speedy legless. My arms weren't burning out yet. And so I should have just continued with legless faster, and part of me thought that in the back of my head, but then I just didn't, I felt so rushed, because I was, behind everyone, that and I'm not used to just, losing to everyone. It sucks, so I, in my head, I never followed through on them. Part of me was just legless climb for longer, but I was freaking out that I don't know, it was bad. I just didn't think clearly during the workout.
Well, what did you in was the fact that you couldn't make a decision, because when you would hang from the rope and you kept trying to seat your feet onto the rope, you were hanging and you couldn't get your feet and you couldn't get your feet. So all that time and attention is what blew your grip out, not the climbing.
It was terrible. So that's I'm most pissed about, because that workout I actually could have done really well in.
Yeah.
If it hadn't have been a shit show.
I like how you turned most surprising into thing I'm most pissed about. That was a nice change of questions.
But I think it was most surprising that I couldn't climb rope. I really threw I still can't believe that I couldn't climb that damn rope. I'm good at rope. I thought I was so good at rope climbing, especially leg work.
So let's say they they're going to throw more gymnastics curveballs at you in the future. How would you approach something that's a little bit unknown differently? Are you going to commit to a game plan and just go through it? Are you going to go with your instincts? Are you going to be willing to change on the fly? How do you deal with stuff like that now that you've been through an experience where a rope climb is one of your strong movements? We're yes, we see ropes, this is good. And then it turns into one little twist in the rope, that little half rope turns into completely screwing the whole workout for you. So how do you deal with surprises like that in the future? How do you do things differently?
Usually I'm pretty good at during the situation, analyzing what I need to do and changing it up on the fly. Someone asked me my rep scheme before Murph. I didn't have one.
Right.
I was doing till 3 reps before muscle fatigue each time, whatever that is. This time, I don't know. There was just I honestly think it's because I was losing and I was getting so pissed I couldn't think straight. The whole time I stuck with one way of pushing that snail. I should have tried something else.
That didn't work that well either. The snail was not the greatest technique for rolling a giant hay bale, basically.
It was bad. I was just so pissed about losing the whole time.
Okay, so lesson from that is sort of find a way to get a clearer head no matter what the situation is in the workout to continue to the best of your ability. And actually, I already think you've made huge strides on that. I thought that was one of your weakest points when we first started working together, was your ability to do that. And then it shined through in the worst way ever at regionals in 2015. That's exactly what I was afraid of. And the workout we thought you were going to do best on, the handstand walk, ended up being the meltdown workout for you, which rolled into the next workout, which basically took you out of the games. That one meltdown ended your season. So
yeah.
But it's not like you quit on that workout either. The rope climb, so you didn't quit. You just didn't go with your instincts or try or have the ability to take a split second to think rationally and make a decision to make a change. And that's just something we work on by putting you in more tough situations and having you figure your way through them.
Yeah, I think this year I'm going to have to, there are workouts that I know, what sucks is I think there are things that I know that if I showed up to a local competition, I might still get beat at. Certain things like sprinting.
Yep.
Sometimes some odd object carries, and some workouts that I can do with Travis and get beat by an entire round. And it probably goes both ways if you throw both of us into a gymnastics workout, but unfortunately that's not what shows up at the game.
Right.
The workouts that by an entire round in are the ones that show up at the games. the ones that I can stand by, they might show up in the open, but they're still probably too gymnastic-y for that.
Well, regionals,
So,
you absolutely cooked him in Nate. I think you doubled him up.
sure. So, but yeah, those aren't the workouts that usually show up. I mean, I shouldn't say that because anything could show up, but unfortunately, like the odd object stuff and the sprinting and that are what show up at the games, and I think those really frustrate me. They make me kind of sick to my stomach when I train because they just absolutely beat me down mentally and physically. But that's what a lot of this year is going to have to look like because there is no more open training. The stuff that I really love, do maybe once in a while, I'm thinking.
We'll still do classic CrossFit because at the heart and soul, that's what we're doing. But with that, your extra pieces have to be focused on the specifics that we expect to see in competition that you're not great at. And so, final question, I think we've sort of answered it, but I'm wondering if you can sum this up for everybody is how will this experience from the whole season, open through regionals to the games now, directly affect your training for the season starting probably next week? Like, how will it change that?
Last year, I think for all of us, the goal was to secure a spot going to the games. So a lot of my training still looked like classic CrossFit. It looked like preparation for regionals a lot of the year. I mean, even last year, we did a whole lot of open prep. It was like, we often modified things to be a little bit heavier or maybe a little more of something that might show up at regionals. This year, I think it should. Again, we'll have to do. Again, we need to secure a spot at regionals. That's definitely never ever in anyone's back pocket. But I don't want to make regionals and end up in the bottom 30. I don't want to
make the games. Yeah.
End up in the bottom 30 again. If I make the games, I want to make a good show at the games. So, spending more time doing games training and a little less time just securing a spot at regionals is what's going to have to happen. I'll probably have to accept the fact that it won't be, this year going into regionals, I felt very confident that I was going to make the games. I felt super well prepared for regionals. This year, they'll have to be a little less just regional training. I'll have to take a little bit of do a little more.
Yeah, but so regionals training and games training don't have to be that different anyway. You can go into a piece you'd see at regionals after a longer run, and you would test that under fatigue, and then that just kind of mimics the state you're going to be in after the first round of a workout anyway, totally gassed and pushing hard anyway. So, there's a way that we'll brainstorm together and we'll come up with situations that literally train both and have you prepared for both situations. That's the relationship that we have to continue to make you successful. But yeah, you're right.
To be honest, doing what I'm thinking is as games training, which is object carries or just odd things, longer runs and the stuff that I hate. In the end, it's going to make me pretty good at the stuff that I hate. Go to regionals, like heavy front squats and those also want to try, but then I have to, and almost at failure.
The squatting will have to improve, no doubt.
So that stuff's all going to over, especially in the mental part of things. So. All
right, awesome. Well, Alexis, thank you for giving us the insight on this year and what we're looking forward to for the coming year. I'm sure there's a lot of people who'll be following you very closely and excited to see how you do. So, guys, I'm even going to get her to post on the blog now and then. So if you want to see her scores regularly, check the comments in the blog. You'll find her there now and then. But thanks for tuning in. Until next time, see you guys later.